Welcome to All Villa, No Filler. Remember to subscribe to the show, follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Aston Villa and Chelsea both have a genuine interest in Germany and Hoffenheim striker Maximilian Beier. That's according to Sky Sports Germany. To talk about that, I'm joined by Max Merrill, who is a German football expert and currently covering Euro 2024. Max, it's great to have you back on the show.
Yeah, great to be back. And once again, a Bundesliga player, this time not a Leverkusen player, being linked with your wonderful club.
Yeah, I know. We've been. I think Leverkusen players might suddenly be out of our price range for some reason. I can't think why, but Maxi Bayer, young, sort of a bit of a newcomer to the Bundesliga. He was scored a lot of goals last season. What can you tell him about us?
Yeah, he had a very, very good season and it ended up with a Germany call-up. He only got his first call-up in March, made his debut in June. So he's really fresh on the scene in terms of, the big time in Germany. Scored 16 goals in the Bundesliga, played all but one game for Hoffenheim. And, he joined the club when he was about, I think he was 15, came over from Cottbus. He's actually from my part of the world, near Berlin. And the season before last, he was on loan in the second Bundesliga at Hanover. Did rather well there as well, scored 7 goals, and just burst onto the scene this season as if he's been doing it, for several years. He looked really comfortable, plays in a very interesting system under Pellegrino Matarazzo at Hoffenheim. And Hoffenheim sort of underwhelmed a little bit this season, ended up qualifying for Europe kind of by default because everyone in the mid-table region was just pretty poor. But he was the standout player. He was the shining star. And Julian Nagelsmann really, really rates him. He brought him on in the match against Switzerland. I think he had a really good impact. And he's part of a crop of players. Germany have struggled to really produce number 9s. He's part of this crop of players who are really exciting young forwards. Probably out of those players, the likes of Chris Führich in there as well, who from Stuttgart. Probably the most, most striker-ish player, but striker-ish is the operative word because he's not really an out-and-out number 9.
He's young, in his early 20s, and as you say, he got the 16 goals in the Bundesliga last season. But did those goals come as a bit of a surprise, given the fact that at Hanover, for instance, where he was on loan, he didn't really set the world alight as much as he has done in the last season at Hoffenheim?
Yeah, I think he was played in the right system by Matarazzo. Basically, he plays a back three with 2 strikers, and Andrej Kramaric, the Croatian forward, plays in the hole just behind. And that really suits him because what basically happens is Wout Weghorst was mostly his strike partner. People might remember him from Burnley and a very short Manchester United cameo, a little surprising move there. And Weghorst is, very adept at pressing play, and Bayer was doing that together with him in a sort of tandem. And what Bayer basically did was have the kind of more classic big man up front next to him, and then he would operate in the channel between the fullback and the centre back of the opposition team. He's got a lot of pace. He loves going at players. And basically, I think it was just the exact right system for him that helped him up his goal scoring. Like you say, it was surprising. People didn't expect it. And Hoffenheim very quickly realized, we've got something on our hands here. We've got a bit of a gem. He signed a new contract in October until 2027. And then has a release clause in there, which is 32.5 million euros. It's believed to be around that. There are some reports that suggest that depending on who comes in for him, they can up that clause a little bit. But that's 27.5 million pounds, which for a player of his potential, if you're buying into that potential, is a reasonable deal. It's about in that region of what Aston Villa have spent, maybe even less than what Aston Villa have spent for players in recent past from the Bundesliga. And I think he's going to have to be played in a similar system because he's lightweight. He weighs in about 71 kilograms. A bit of a frame, kind of like Thomas Müller. He's a lot faster, though. He's a lot more athletic, I would say, than Thomas Müller. But he can play across the front three. I think he might end up being a player that could play on the wing in certain systems, and play in a front two in other systems. He even played in that hole in the number 10 role for Hoffenheim on a few occasions. He's still young, he's still raw. I do think that is his best position in a front two, being that sort of more the player that plays on the shoulder a bit more and runs in that channel. But he could be effective on the wing as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting because Unai Emery likes versatility, and I think that also his age and profile sort of suits and matches kind of what Villa seems to have been targeting this summer. Villa tend to play Ollie Watkins as the main striker, and then a number 2 off him. This season it's been Moussa Diaby generally as the second striker playing off him, who can also play out on the wing. And I did wonder that with Beier, could he be a player that one day maybe replaces Ollie Watkins? Because Ollie Watkins won't continue to won't be getting any younger in the next few years. And Beier could be somebody who maybe steps into that role. But also, in the near future, were he to join Aston Villa, could he play as that second striker? Does he have those kind of attributes, do you think?
Yeah, and I mean, I say Wout Weghorst was his strike partner for most of the season. He was. Ilas Bebu, a very, very pacey, more sort of winger / striker, was also his strike partner, and he can play in that hole. I think, his frame is maybe a concern in terms of, he is very lightweight. I think he's still a bit raw, even though 16 goals in 33 games doesn't look raw. He only has 3 assists, so that's maybe also a part of his game that he will have to develop going forward. And also, like I say, he was in the 2nd division last season. He hasn't played in Europe yet. National team debut coming just before the Euros. It might be a touch too soon. You are buying potential. He moved, he moved into the first team before going to Hanover and impressed. But I think one more season at Hoffenheim would probably be, if I was his agent, what I would recommend him to do. But I'm not his agent, and in fact, his agent is no longer his agent because Mike Bartel, a German agent who didn't cover himself in glory by making some sexist comments a little while back. He lost a few clients, including Maxi Beier, who's now under the same agency as Jamal Musiala and Leroy Sané. So, you've got a new agent, you've got a new contract with a release clause. It does point to at least there being the thinking of, okay, we might want to capitalize on this season. We might want to take that chance. Like I say, if I was advising him, I'd probably say stay in Hoffenheim for one more season and then move on. But if there's a big contract on the table from a Premier League club like Aston Villa, I think he would be tempted to do it, even though he is more of a sort of shy retiring type. He's not a boisterous guy. It could be a bit too much too soon. But Villa have really impressed me last season, and perhaps, as you say, also with Unai Emery's system, the type of player that he can get the best out of.
Yeah, you've sort of covered exactly what I was going to ask, because I looked at his weight and he's 70 kg, 6'1", and what I've seen of him, he does look a very slight figure. And I do wonder if that sort of coming into the Premier League, it might just be a little bit too early. But, I don't know, maybe there's examples in the past as well of players who have been that kind of weight who've come in and been absolutely fine,
and weight can be deceiving, and I mean, if you have a front 3 of Watkins, Diaby and Beier, you're not doing too badly for yourself, and you're going to have those 3 players maybe rotating a little bit in their positions. They'll probably need to figure out, I don't want to be stepping on each other's toes, but Diaby has so much pace, and together with Beier, I think it could be a really potent attack if he continues in this type of form, and if he can play to his strengths. He's a right-footed player who likes that left channel a little bit. And the one thing that's going for him as well is he loves darts. That's going for him. He loves the darts. Apparently, he's quite a decent player. He says in the winter he just gets his dartboard out and practices. He said he really likes Luke Littler, but his idol is Michael van Gerwen, the Dutch great. So maybe a little bit of a bonus for a Premier League club like Villa to say, hey, if you come over here, you can come see the darts a lot.
Yeah, you never know. You could come to the local Villa pubs or the Aston Social and places like that. The Aston Tavern, come play some darts with us. Probably destroy everybody as well. It'd be amazing at that as well, probably. But just as a final question, so you would sort of think his main attributes really are kind of, from what I've seen, he's got a very funny technique. He looks like somebody, I think if you were a defender, it'd be very hard to read which way he's going to move, because he seems to Yeah, he's very shifty, and he's got that height as well. So would you say his attributes are, obviously finishing because he can clearly score goals, but that kind of unique shape, I guess, and pace maybe. I mean, what would you say his key attributes are?
Yeah, he's a good finisher as well. He's a very good finisher,
Mm.
and some people have compared him to Thomas Müller. I think it's somewhat lazy comparison just because of the frame and the look of him. Thomas Müller is lauded in Germany as what's called the Raumdeuter, the space interpreter. He sort of finds himself in little pockets. He does unconventional things. I wouldn't say Beier is as unconventional in terms of his movement, but he does have an uncanny knack for finding himself in good positions. And when I was at the Germany game against Switzerland, I was actually behind the goal, pitch side. I foolishly missed the Germany goal because I had to go up to the platform where we were broadcasting from. But I was behind that goal. And what struck me with Beier was that he was always on the shoulder, always looking for that run and trying to find that channel. And trying to bother. It's a nightmare to play against as a centre back because you've got a player like him. Funnily enough, Suarez was like this as well, always looking to play off that shoulder and get in behind. But he can run with the ball as well, and that's why I think he could also be played on the wing a little bit more, perhaps, if he's in a different system. It's a little too early to tell because he has had that one strong season. I think he maybe overperformed a little bit in terms of his output. 16 goals looks really good. This Hoffenheim side wasn't very good. And like I say, it really played to his strengths. And he basically, very quickly this season, with Kramaric and Weghorst both missing parts of the season with injury, basically became the main man in a Bundesliga side that has European ambitions, that has a lot of attacking options. They signed a striker, Megan Berisha, before the season, who barely got a game and who got injured as well, admittedly. But through these injuries and through playing him in really his ideal position, he kind of was given a lot of service. He probably wouldn't get that at Villa. But he earned himself that new contract with the release clause, crucially. Like I say, 32.5 million euros reported. That's 27.5 million pounds. It expires allegedly on the 30th of June. So the time is ticking. I think a couple of clubs are sniffing around. We've heard about Chelsea. I don't think Bayern are in for him. Bayern are looking more at Chris Führich from Stuttgart. They've obviously got Harry Kane up front, so they probably want more of a wide player. So Villa will have to act fast and decisively and convince him that there's lovely darts to be played in the Birmingham area.
Yeah, trust me, there are. Well, Max, it's been absolutely brilliant to chat to you, and I think Maxi Beier is definitely a player to keep an eye on in the next few years, regardless of whether he goes to Villa or not. Max, where can we find you and your work online?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at @maxmerrill_. I'm here for Australian broadcaster Optus at the moment, and of course, you can also hear me commentating and voicing things for the Bundesliga. So if you watch the Bundesliga in the UK, for instance, you'll hear my voice occasionally on the airwaves, depending on what you're watching. And always a pleasure to be here. And like I said to you earlier, I think Aston Villa have been doing a great job. It's an exciting time to be a Villa supporter. I don't need to tell you. It's great what they've done in terms of recruitment in the last few years. And I think the Bundesliga is a fruitful hunting ground in terms of finding that young talent that's still somewhat affordable. The wages are lower, the transfer fees are a bit lower. I would encourage any Premier League club to have a look at the Bundesliga. There's a really exciting talent coming through.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Max.